Hello and welcome to NJBIZ Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Kanige. My guest today is Karen Siciliano. She runs Siciliano Landscaping in Red Bank. Karen, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. Now, you recently sold the business, and I'm interested in hearing all about that. But first, bring our viewers up to speed on what it was before the sale, how it grew. What's the story of Siciliano Landscaping?
Siciliano Landscape Company was founded by my grandfather in 1935, so we're in our 89th year of business. It began with an admired reputation in landscape maintenance, mostly in the Monmouth County area, and has evolved and grown into that of a licensed landscape architect firm that does design, installation, and maintenance throughout the state of New Jersey. I entered the company in 2002, as a second career. My first career was on Wall Street. I worked for JP Morgan and Chase before they merged in mortgage-backed securities. And on 9/11, I lost a lot of friends that day in the towers. I found it difficult to return to Wall Street, but easy to return to the place in which I was born and raised, which was Red Bank, New Jersey. And so I did that, and my father was in the business at the time. I'm the third generation. I took the helm in 2010, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Okay. Now, those are actually two careers in what I traditionally thought of as kind of male-dominated industries, Wall Street and landscaping. What's it been like for you?
Well, I seem to have done well in both. I like the fact that on Wall Street we made money, and we also had an admired reputation. Here in landscape, what I discovered was that people typically are emotionally attached to their landscape, and people that work in the industry have a decisive passion for it. And for myself, I love the idea of having a beginning, middle, and end to a project where we could look at the before and after and have a sense of pride of what we had accomplished. An admired reputation was something our company always had. And as a third generation owner, I set about making sure I didn't screw that up.
Okay. And apparently you didn't. So you sold the business to Mariani Landscaping, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and they've got, I think, almost 20 similar kinds of businesses under their umbrella. First of all, what made you decide to sell? What was the right time for you? What was the thought process to going into making that decision?
Well, I think that when you sell a company, it's in some ways similar to when you begin a company. You need to know your why. And for me, I'm 63 years old now. I don't have children that wanted to take on the business for themselves. Yet I very much wanted to preserve the legacy, the long legacy that we have, protect the employees, give them an opportunity to grow, continue to service our very loyal clientele. And so how do I do that? And take some of my chips off the table. And Mariani gave me that opportunity, for which I'm very grateful.
Okay. Now, what was the most difficult part of this process for you? Was it actually making the decision to go ahead and take to make the sale, or was there some other task that was particularly difficult that you managed?
Well, I think that you have to trust and like the people with whom you're going to be working, because during that 6 months between when you begin negotiating your deal to the time you've consummated it, there's a lot of work involved, particularly for a small business owner that doesn't have a lot of layers of finance.
Right.
So I had spoken with my accountant, who I've done business with since I entered the green industry. And Mike Curry was a partner at Saks, and he told me that he had an M&A group. And after meeting with members of his team, I decided, well, they're the ones for me. They had a clear understanding of where I wanted to go. They knew where I'd been, and they could help me with all those levels of due diligence that I didn't really have the manpower to do. and allow me to continue to work on my business while this was happening.
Okay. Now, I mean, given your background, I'm curious about how important advisory services were for you. I mean, you did have a background in finance. Did that, if for someone who doesn't have that background, who's been a landscaper, like for example, all their lives, is that something you would recommend? I mean, how would you go about finding an advisor? You just said someone you really get along with. Is that the most important thing?
Someone that you like and someone that you trust.
Okay.
And because I think Saks for me was a great fit because I had worked with them for 20 years.
Okay.
They knew my finances, and they had an M&A division that could identify potential buyers in the market. And when I met with their team, the very first question they asked me is if you could pick 3 people in the industry that you would like to partner with, and it did become more of a partnership than anything else. Who would you pick? And I named Mariani as one of my top 3 choices.
Okay.
And then they were able to get me in front of them, and I was fortunate in that regard.
Okay. Well, so it's interesting. You did know about the buyer in just the course of running your business and doing work, just encountering them around.
Frank Mariani is a legend in the green industry, and I had heard about him. I'd never had met him before, but after our first meeting, I realized why he is so well liked and admired. And he wanted to create a family of family businesses, and that had admired reputations and that had been around a while. People that liked the script that he was writing. And one of the things that was very important to me was that our family name would be preserved. After all, we're the brand in the market. And Frank didn't want to change that. He wanted to capture throughout the country high-end residential landscape companies that could do basically everything in outdoor living. And he wanted to preserve our company culture, which was very similar to his own and his own history in business. And so we now have 19 companies under the helm with over $500 million in revenue and a robust pipeline. And I think all of that is important to know the vision that you've been promised when you consummate this deal.
Okay. All right. You brought up a couple of things that I wanted to get into a little bit more. First of all, I mentioned at the top that and I think you mentioned that you're still running this business. and that it sounds like that was part of the plan from the very beginning. Yes, that the buyer Frank Mariani said, "Yes, okay, I want you to run the business." Is that the way it went down?
Yes, exactly. You know, one of the things that COVID provided was a glimpse into where you were strong and where you were weak. Okay. And one of the things that we understood quite quickly was that we weren't as protected as we probably should be with IT. We didn't have the buying power that we should have with resources like trucks and equipment. And so when we partnered with Mariani and became part of the Premier Group, we didn't just become a bigger company, we became a better company. Okay. And having me continue to inspire my people and service our clients with these added resources was something that I was very excited about.
Okay. And you're part of a much larger company now, obviously. What's that like for you? I mean, was there a period of adjustment that you had to make to get used to being in an organization that's that big?
Well, first of all, everything that was promised was delivered. Okay. So that was refreshing and comforting. And then when I met the other founders, we get together by phone quite often, but in person pretty regularly. I discovered that I really, really liked the people that were my peers, and we immediately worked as a team so that we would have shared resources, shared processes, shared things like marketing and IT and ways to implement. And I very much like that.
Okay, well that was then the next question was what is your role in the larger business? It sounds like everybody has this kind of sort of consultative role in the larger organization.
Yes, it's the ultimate peer group.
Okay.
So we are located throughout the country. We continue to run the businesses that we founded with the same principles that we value. But we have lots of people with whom we can share ideas and ask questions of, solve problems with, etc. And they're enjoyable to be around. So there hasn't been a whole lot of difficulty for me or my employees to assimilate.
Okay. And how did you, what was the process like of coming up with a valuation for your business? Is there a standard metric in the landscaping business that you were looking at in terms of what kind of multiple you were looking for, or just what the business will look like and what it was worth?
Well, that's not an easy question to answer because I
Okay.
don't think that there's
Sorry.
any one. No, it's okay. I don't think there's any one formula, and I learned that as the process went on. There, I had a clearer understanding of EBITDA evaluations in the end more than I did in the beginning, but I think that what I felt was that I was treated fairly, and that the evaluation that was given to me by my accountants who knew my business best
Okay.
was mirrored in the deal that was presented to me by my suitor. And I think
Okay.
that's what's important.
All right. I asked the question because I know that's something that's at the top of folks' mind when they're thinking about selling is, am I going to be treated fairly? And it's you were, it sounds like. I guess the question then is for someone similarly situated thinking about doing this, how do you how do you ensure that you're treated fairly? Is it just a matter of A, picking your advisors properly, and B, then vetting the company that you're going to be a part of?
Yes, I think both are very important. And for me, money was just one of the components. How long do you want to stay at the helm? Will you be able to keep your company name? With whom will you be doing business going forward? What you're being evaluated based on your past and your present, but you want to have an eye on what will the future look like? Has the vision that you've been promised, is that what's going to be delivered? And in my case, it was, and it has been, and that makes me very happy.
All right. I was going to ask you then what the most important piece of advice you would impart to someone thinking of doing this. Is that it? Just to find that comfort level?
Yeah, I think any partnership in life is a give and take, right? And
Right.
if you can begin by liking the person and trusting the person, then the rest is sort of easy. If you are always a little bit suspect, or it starts to feel like drudgery, then you're probably riding the wrong horse.
Okay. All right. So having gone through this, I'm curious, number one, is there something that you would change? Is there something that you would have done differently? Now, having gone through the process, being out on the other side of it and running the business as again, part of a larger organization, is there something you think you might have done differently, or did everything go pretty much exactly the way you wanted it to?
That's funny. Nobody's ever asked me that question, Jeff. But as I'm listening to you, I'm saying to myself, no, there is nothing that I would have done differently. In the beginning, I was looking at various business brokers. I'm glad that I went with people that I knew and trusted, and people that that knew me and my business. I'm really thrilled and grateful that I teamed up with the Mariani Premier Group. They are it's an outstanding organization,
Okay.
and I'm happy to be a part of it.
All right. So, and that I guess answers the next question, which was, again, having done all of that, would you make the same decision again? Would you go through with it and get to this point? Sounds like yes.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Okay. So finally, before I let you go, what does the business look like for you over the next, say, 12 to 24 months? Where do you see growth coming? What are you planning for? What does the future look like for you?
Well, we're having a fabulous year, as we always do. Each year, we set records from previous revenue
Okay.
and profit. I have a wonderful team of self-starters and problem solvers in both design and installation, as well as maintenance. Technology has come to the green industry slowly, but I can say that as a result of labor issues and the environment, having a keen eye toward being a better steward of the environment, robotic lawnmowers is something that will come of age in the not too distant future. I'm happy about that for clients. Every day will be Friday. There will be very little in the way of noise and disturbance, and we won't be so dependent upon labor to do that which can be handled by machines. So that's important. And I think we're also looking at ways in which to have less toxic treatment of turf and weeds rather than the typical pesticides that we've endured for so long. I think it's time to be a little bit more mindful of the environment.
Well, all of that sounds very good, and that's a good place to leave it. I will wish you the best, and thank you for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Jeff.
Karen Siciliano runs Siciliano Landscaping in Red Bank. Thank you very much, and thank you all for watching. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.